Whatto? Hello and welcome to this YouTube channel, the first conventional or normal video for 2020. Because the first video, that was more an introduction for this channel for 2020. This channel has been a thing ever after the autumn, late autumn, middle autumn of 2018. So this channel has grown quite large, in that I've made a lot of YouTube videos that most people never bothered to have watched. Even people that complain against me in the YouTube comment section, they've never actually seen the video. That means I have to constantly explain the same thing over and over. For example, this phone is broken because I put it in a USB case, the casing for the VR device, and the spring mechanism was too powerful and it blicked the phone out, and this phone crashed upon the bathroom floor. So, here's a bit more information that I may have already explained, and I have already fucking explained. This phone is going to do, this phone is connected, because of the broken battery, connected to a not USB device, a Plotchy solar power bank, making this phone mostly or a little bit solar powered, primarily grid powered, because this thing's been powered by the grid. This place is Wrexham, a town of Wales. There isn't much sunlight except in the summer, but you get my point, come on. This video is about a YouTuber that you may or may not have heard of, and that is Mr. Steve Chives. Primarily the fact Mr. Steve Chives is a pacifistic baby. Here's a bit of information for later. Just last December, my oldest cat consumed a lily leaf. A mother tends to buy these lilies, thinking because they've never really been a threat in the past, obviously the lilies won't be a threat anymore. Our oldest cat consumed a fallen leaf, a lily leaf. This was in the middle of the night, and I found my cat as I was coming back from the bathroom. I found our cat in the kitchen having a fit. Our oldest cat, Flora, our oldest cat, was changing from having a fit and foaming in the mouth, or just being completely stilled, but occasionally foaming from the mouth. And Flora was clearly dying. So my mother and I took our oldest cat, Flora, all the way to our closest vet in the middle of the night. And my mother was not paid, however I still had plenty of money in my bank account. So through 2 transactions, because the banks are very stupid and limited, even though stupid and limited are not actually you get my point. Our oldest cat, after being repaired, after being healed, after all these blood tests, after all this cleansing, our oldest cat, after being repaired, healed, completely fixed, healed. My oldest cat being healed cost me more than 1,400 quid. That is more than 1,400, I keep saying 700, that is more than 1,400 pounds, all spent on keeping my cat alive and functioning, completely functional. How does this connect against or with Mr. Steve Chives? Mr. Steve Chives considers hate and trolling as a connected or same thing. That's not actually connected, but it's come a bit later. This will be for later. Mr. Steve Chives thinks of hate or any hateful or angry type of response, or any negative emotion, negative typed opinion or negative typed emotion as being trolling, even though that's completely retarded. as a troll is all a matter of baiting a person. The point of trolling is baiting a person into a response or an emotion which the troll takes as entertainment or as a type of trickery or sabotage for the long run. And so obviously hate is, because of this definition of trolling, actually not a type of trolling, as hate and anger is a justified response constructed from or based off indignation, or as a means of trying to create justice or fight against a conformity or a type of injustice. Meanwhile, trolling is baiting or tricking or manipulating or even sabotaging a person or thing for the purposes of having that response, for the purposes of them as being stupidly entertained. This behaviour could also be said to be as old as the gladiatorial arenas, people being entertained by fights, mindlessly eating their popcorn like 2-year-olds that just do not understand eating loudly is infinitely stupid. How are these two things connected? Mr. Steve Chives has in a different video, well, these are not exactly connected, but are two cases of Steve Chives being very stupid, very retarded. Mr. Steve Chives may or may not agree with something called euthanasia, that is, killing a person or pet just as a way of not letting said person or pet feel any suffering in their final hours, even though the suffering can actually last many decades or years, as it's a matter of just dying without pain, compared with not dying but being in a lot of pain. Obviously, you should pick alive and in pain, as you are actually alive and a cure could be created, or you have more time to set up something that will continue the things that you have already created, so that you have a hand after your death of your vessel, that is your physical form. So obviously you should pick alive but in pain. This instance of Steve Chives being a foolish little baby, in one way or a different way, comes from a comment response video. Mr. Steve Chives responding to a comment about how a person puts a pet of theirs, their dog, down. They put, the dog down, acting as though it was justified, and how this old episode of Star Trek helped them get all the way through the resulting emotional pain. The man deserves to be in pain for killing their pet. You are a fully grown human being. You are Mother Nature's apex death machine warship and a medical ship, as your physical form has evolved all the things necessary for looking after your fellow creatures. Your hands can be something to disembowel your fellow humans, provided of course you go right into the bowels, or a way to be grasped or to lift up a mouse from a burning fire. The human body is a warship and a medical ship, so it's multitasked. And as a human being, you have the responsibility by evolutionary adaptation. You have the responsibility as to look after all of your fellow creatures. You are Mother Nature's way of rebelling against every form of God by being more powerful than said God. How is this guy connected to Steve Chives, except for being a commenter? Mr. Steve Chives might have actually agreed. So, Steve Chives, a pacifist calling every angry or hateful or negative person a troll, even though they are pretty much the fucking exact opposite of a troll, and may or may not agree with euthanasia or such method. Such pet or person killing method. Mr. Steve Chives is a complete moron. Please try to like or dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Try and come to my Discord server, the Power Zone Dimension. You've been welcomed.